Let me introduce our first speaker of the day, Sifu Paul. Sifu is an international economist who's been on CBC, on CNN, has quite the track record. He's worked with diplomats, he's worked with many first builders, he's worked with 9 international banks, so he has quite the overview on the international scene. He is also, side note, a geomancer. He might explain a bit to us what that means, but first and foremost, what that does, it heightens his ability to forecast. So he's here today to talk about the present, so about the future of our economy. I think that it will be very useful to all of us, and especially it'll be a good lead up to one of our other sessions, which is going to be to building a successful business plan. We always need to understand what's in front of us before we can actually plan. So with that said, Sifu Paul, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eric. This is an exciting session. Good energy. Well, you guys can see me. I can't really see all of you, but I bet you're all here. Now, my name is Pauling. I am a professional geomancer and also a philosopher, because I probably look at life differently from most people after all the 74 years I've gone through. Okay. And my topics will go this way. First, let me explain what happened this year, what exactly happened in 2020, and how is it going to lead us to, and what's going to happen next year. Now, so I predicted the year usually half a year before it happens. So in July last year, 2019, I already did a complete prediction for 2020. And this pandemic was not out of the norm. There are predicted 3 major problems to happen to world health. Number 1 is lungs and chest problems. Number 2, air transmitted germs. And number 3, mental illnesses. But why would that all happen this year? It's not incidental, it's meant to be. And this problem did not happen in any particular country first, neither China, nor Europe, nor US. It just happened worldwide. Well, how did it happen? There's actually a mathematical reason behind it. Now, how do we calculate it? The world does not move just randomly. Everything that happened to the world, to the country, to the individual, has actually logic behind it. There's a pattern behind it. So nothing really is incidental. Okay, now, how does the world work? The world works on what we call the 5 elements: metal, water, wood, fire, and earth. I guess you heard of it. Each element also divided in yin and yang. Yin meaning soft, yang meaning hard. To understand how the world works, you must understand how these 10 things work. 5 elements into each one into 2 elements. Now, 2020 is a very special year, because out of the 5 elements, metal and yang metal, strong metal, is the hardest of all the elements. And then yin water is the softest and negative element of all. So what year is 2020? 2020 is the year of metal red, as you probably heard about in the media. So this metal is the strongest yang metal. The red sign is the softest and the most yin, soft side or water side. So when these 2 elements combine, it's like the 2 extremities getting hit together, and crazy things happen. And this is factor number 1. Factor number 2, between 2004 and 2023, the whole world is going through the life cycle of the number 8. Now we use 9 numbers to represent how the world works, and then it gets more and more and more complicated. It's a very complicated mathematical model that I calculated. So 2020 happened to be governed by the yearly number of 7. Okay, so 7 is one number behind 8. What does it mean? It means several important things. Number 1 is a receding number. And also 7 within the cycle 8 means war, WAR. So the whole world is actually at war. And we should be very thankful that we had this virus, in a way, because without the virus, we actually were confronted with a third world war. So this third world war happened to be replaced by a virus. So in a way, virus saved us. This is the second time the virus saved the world. You know when the first time was? 1918. At the end of the First World War, what happened was suddenly a big flu hit Europe. No country was immune, including Germany. And so Germany did not completely surrender, but they had to because no sense to fight anymore. The virus was killing millions of people. So suddenly, abruptly, First World War ended by the virus. And lucky in this year, the World War did not happen yet. The virus hit first. Okay? So why would it be a virus? Now, because this virus did not happen this year. In my calculation, this virus happened as early as 1984. Okay, that's a long time ago. Okay, talking about 40 years ago. Okay, that's a year, also year the rat, surprisingly, so coincidental. And that year was also very strong wood year. It's a wooden rat year with a very strong yang there too. So you're dealing with another extreme opposite signs, extreme yang, extreme yin. But this virus stayed latent for 30 somewhat years until something happened at the end of 2019. At the end of 2019 and at the beginning of 2020. Okay, if you look up at the sky above us, the sun's movement has disturbed. A lot of extrasolar radiation has popped in the universe. And the Jupiter and 2 other planets also line up. So a lot of extraordinary energies happen in the outer space, compounded with the fact that the Earth hole for the ozone layer is the largest. So a lot of this extraterrestrial energy pop into the Earth. And so this energy actually caused the virus to transmutate to the point that it can attack humans. This virus is not something new, it's been in all countries. It just needs this extra energy for it to happen. The sad thing is, in the hands of crazy human beings, it became a political issue. This is the sole opportunity for the world to unite, to fight the virus. Once again, as I said back in the 1980s, the only way for mankind to unite is when we get attacked by the aliens from outer space. So you can look at the virus as one of those. Unfortunately, people haven't learned and became so political without me going further. Now, how do we say every 60 years this kind of year would happen crazily? We can trace back, there's a logic to it. Because in mathematics, okay, on the top side of the combination, okay, there are 10 elements, yin and yang, so 5 elements times 2 is 10. At the bottom, we have 12 horoscope signs in something like algebra. So when you take the highest common factor between 10 and 12 is 60. So every 60 years, the world repeats itself. So we trace back in 1960. The whole world went into a famine. For example, China was hit by the worst famine in history. Millions of people died of hunger. Even in the big city like Shanghai, kids could not survive. So a lot of kids became orphans, and they got sent to Inner Mongolia to be raised by the step parents or by the other families. So all these kids became kids of the nation. So it was very famous. A lot of younger folks didn't know that. That's 1960. And then between 1960 and 1966, the whole world went haywire. And the same year, 1960, 17 countries in Africa went independent. There were tons of wars and battles. Okay? And then when we went back another 60 years, in 1900, 8 countries joined up to beat up China bad. And they burned down the most famous garden in the world, in Beijing. And so the ruins are still there. and they robbed a lot of artifacts from Beijing Palace and brought them to France in particular, and UK and Britain. Okay, that's 1900. So terrible year. And if you went back another 60 years, 1840 that is, in 1840, the British Empire invaded China, and then had China, the Qing dynasty surrender, so they gave up Hong Kong to England. So Hong Kong became an English colony in 1860, called the Opium War. Okay, and if you went back another 60 years, then there's a lot of wars in China during that time. So every 60 years, there's something major. So the good news is you won't see something like this again until 60 years later. I guess not many of us will see it. At least I won't be able to see it. At my age, I'm 74, don't forget. I'll be 134 otherwise. Okay, so nothing to worry. So that's the big picture what led to this year. But also in this year, before this, a lot of things happening. Okay, because the world needs somebody like Mr. Trump to cause more rapid changes, to cause a turmoil. Okay, just like Second World War without Hitler. So you wouldn't see a Second World War. Without Mr. Trump, you wouldn't see this world going haywire, upside down. So we need some, this is like a creature of the time, I call it. I don't use the word right or wrong, it's just, it's part of history, okay? But don't forget, every time there's a disaster, there's an opportunity. People say the whole world has gone bankrupt. Yes and no. Yes and no, the way I look at it. Because I help a lot of businesses this year, and in this year they did marvelous. In fact, they doubled their businesses. Those that I helped out. Okay. One was a food packaging company. He literally had to buy another huge 20,000 square foot warehouse in Mississauga. Their business went so well. And my other clients in logistics, they tripled the businesses. Okay. Now, because everything can be predicted, nothing is incidental. So, and the whole world is leading toward a different way of doing business. Those people who fail are because they lived only yesterday. They have not lived today, let alone they live tomorrow. Okay, the winners use yesterday as an experience, as a lesson. And they use tomorrow as the direction, as the guidance, as a goal. But they have to live today to be fulfilling. So these are winners' energy, winner vision. The loser vision is everything falling apart, everything is bad, nothing is good. That is the loser, and they deserve to be losers. So they must change their mentality. And I think for anything bad, there's always opportunities. So what had led to this is already back in 1980. Now, in the year 1980, I happened to be head of the computer department, okay, at that time, and I was still with today's Ernst & Young. I was manager at Clarkson Gordon at the time. And within 2 years, I became manager in that time for Marathon Realty, a branch of CB Limited. But in the year exactly 1980, I said one thing. I said the world would be taken over by these small gadgets called PC, personal computers. I don't know if you guys remember that. Okay. And actually in 1976, when I became manager at Clarkson Gordon that year, okay, my background was computer scientist from University of Waterloo and business administration from University of Toronto. So in 1976, I said the world of computer programming could be automated. I actually created a system that the users just fill out some form, feed the forms in the computer, a whole system would be born without any programming needed. And I actually developed the first system in Clarkson Gordon, the payroll system. And I did that system within 1 week because I didn't need any programming. I just need the users to fill out what they need, feed in the computer, done. And then one company want to hire me to Cincinnati. There's a database company called Total, Total. And I said, why would I want to? I never like to go in the USA anyways, even though I visited Cincinnati many times. So I said, thank you, I'd love to, but it's an honor. Okay, that he asked me. So I stay where I was. So in the 1980s, I converted all the work processes at Marathon Realty CP Limited from the Wang word processors and from all these data entry machines into the then PC, personal computer. I said this is going to take over both, and it did. It did. So in the late 1980s, I became director IT at CIBC, okay, and head of the computer department of Wood Gundy. Okay, and then finally, 1993, I quit the corporate life and do what I do full time. So this is 28th year. I've been doing what I do, and I enjoy every moment. And because of what I do, I change the life of many people. I help many corporations to succeed. So it's a good feeling. And so far, I've done my work in more than 66 countries that I travel to. This is the only year I couldn't travel. Okay. So now, to wrap this year up, 2020, even though it's a terrible year, but traditional businesses need to change. Okay, the concrete and cement shops will suffer the most, and I said this at least 3 or 5 years ago. I look at these shops and I show my clients and my friends, they are going to suffer. Okay, and unfortunately, it was not an omen, and I could see it coming, even 5 years ago. I said the world is going to be so amazingly, we will be living in the air, but we will be working in the air, just like we're talking in the air now. Okay, so that is all happening, and it's going to happen further. I said all these things that are so elusive will no longer be elusive, they will make a lot of money. And I said the world will be only on two things in the future: artificial intelligence and robotics. Okay, and communications. Knowledge-based rather than goods-based. Even if you are selling products and something, you must add the keyword knowledge to it. And we see a lot of that happening. Even though travel agents all died this year, a lot of restaurants really went under. That's sad. So many livelihoods gone under. But that's to teach people and teach the government a lesson. So for 2020, I did the predictions in 2019 July time, and it was published. And my predictions for next year should also be on my website and being published also in book form. Okay, I said in 2020, the two major businesses will suffer a lot: metal and water. What is metal? Automobiles, cars. What is water? Travel business. Okay, so these two really suffer the most. But I also said real estate would be very volatile, but by mid-July it's going to go up. Okay, and it's going to go further. And then because of the change time, September will be the month of some volatilities in real estate. I'm talking about in general in Canada. Okay, that means we go through the whole August and half of July flying high. Suddenly September slow down quite a bit. Why would I make that prediction? Because traditionally September is the cutover time between the holiday time and going back to school, going back to work time. So this is a time that there will be a lot of changes. Traditionally, with normal times, September will be a hot month for real estate. I think it's still hot, but it's not as hot as August for change. But all this is going to change again. So by October, you're going to see real estate go up again. Now this is the opportunity for people to start a business. So but on a different tone. So you have to know how the future works out. So to do further. Now, a lot of people also ask me, is Donald Trump going to be put out of office? before the last virus happened, his chance was actually 80%. Because of all happened, his chance did not fall below 50. It's still 50-50 chance. Because the American mentality is completely different from Canadian mentality. Okay? Because American mentality, since I have a lot of American clients myself, okay, and overseas, their mind is Hollywood mind. What is Hollywood mind? Flashy, spotlights, speaking high, doing crazy things. That's why movie stars in the 1960s, 1970s, you know how they make themselves happy or famous and happy? Commit suicide. When they commit suicide, then suddenly a big news pop up. Oh, they survive even bigger. Then they become happy because they make more money. Okay. So that's the American mentality. They love doing it. So Donald Trump is very smart. He cares on this mentality, rebellious mentality, and also crazy mentality, Hollywood-like mentality, and something. And the only way for that to change is people wake up. Because Mr. Trump's major selling point 4 years ago was jobs. Now, what happened to us in Canada? Now, in my honest opinion, after traveling to 66 countries, I swear that this is the absolutely best country in the whole world. Okay, I've been to Australia 5 times. I've been to Switzerland twice. Okay, and I've been all over Europe. In fact, I love Croatia, believe that or not. Okay, but anyways, by comparison, any country closest to utopia is only one country, Canada. One of the most diplomatic countries. You can go up to a politician and give him a help without being imprisoned. You try to do it somewhere else, I guess you will disappear in no time at all. That's so quick. And also you can complain, you can go protest, no problem. Do it whatever you like, as long as you are not violent. You want to do something, relatively free. Okay? Air, amazing. Water, never a problem. Because the future of the world, 2 things are going to really hurt the world. Food and water. Food and water. That's a major thing. And those 2 things will happen to be abundant in this country. Okay, look at the Paris. They can have 3 rounds of crop every year if they want to. Look at water. Canada was the baby of the Ice Age. So when the Ice Age receded, leaving behind Canada tons of clear water that you can drink. Okay. In fact, in Manitoba alone, you're talking about 250,000 lakes. And you got the 5 biggest clear water lakes in the world, even though humans try their best to destroy it. But lucky enough, they're still there. Okay, so we are very safe. We're in the best country. With such a big country and with the fact that we have such a low population, we have room to bring more people in to give more birth, but also room to grow. So for this year coming, very important to know what to do. So now real estate is one thing for this year, but another thing that's big in 2020 is a fire business. Real estate is earth. Communications, high tech will be classified as fire. So I said many months ago, 2020, regardless of what's going on economically, high tech is going to really fly because of fire element. And it did. But at the same time, a lot of legal conflicts, a lot of mergers will happen. And I bet they're happening now. Lots of mergers going on. Okay, and also, if not for the virus, entertainment would be a good thing. But even with the virus, you know what? For example, China, this is a record year for them to produce TV shows. We are not talking about a few TV shows. We are talking about hundreds, if not thousands. The largest producer in the world for TV series, and over 200 TV stations. That's crazy in one country alone. Okay, and so that's on the far side. Entertainment is also fire. And also the third one that did not badly in 2020, something to do with wood. Okay, unfortunately, wood means something like crops, but including marijuana. So actually, a lot of companies did very well doing this trade or business in marijuana for the medical use, I hope. Okay, even though personally I'm against it. Okay, but you cannot stand, we have some unusual government. Okay, so without going further, but something is suffering a lot this year too. Textile business suffer a lot, mainly because you don't need to show off your clothing now. It's really killed by the virus. Okay? Now, so with all this going on, so to do well in the next 4 months, because the year goes to February the 3rd, 2021, it does not end on December 31st. Keep that in mind. It's a different calendar. Okay, the start of next year is February 4th, 2021. So between now and February 3rd, 2021, so we still have 4 and some months to handle. Now, what's going to happen? First is the financial market. In my predictions, okay, a lot of people could believe what I said. I said financial market is going to fly like crazy. People said you're crazy. With all this going on, how could it fly? And I also said real estate will do well in the second half of this year. Some people said, how to believe with this economy? Where did people get money from? I said I do not predict the world based on the normal economic tools. I use different tools to do my predictions. And they are meant to do well, and they will do well. In fact, and the only way to get wealthy in this country for the long term, that is only for real estate, and only use 3 words: buy, don't sell. Build up your portfolio. If you don't need to sell, if it's good area, keep it, and use the equity to buy more. So you can leave a lot of assets to your children, your grandchildren. Okay? So that's the only way. And then what is business? Business is mainly for cash flow. Okay, if you work for someone, you will never be wealthy. But you can use that for cash flow, to use it for proper investments. And the magical formula to be wealthy, even if you're working for someone, is a formula of 80-20. What's 80-20? For every $10 you make, you put $2 away to fix earning vehicle, such as some investments, safe investments, and spend whatever you want with the 80% of the $10. That is $8. Then no matter how bad you do, your $2 will do the magic when you're sleeping. One day when you make up, you're a multimillionaire. Okay, and in this country, it's extremely easy to become a millionaire because you can't even afford to buy a house if you're a millionaire. You need to be more than that. So you got to think big. So for the next 4.5 months, pay some attention to real estate, and so also pay attention to the high-tech sector for investments. Okay. In fact, one thing I forgot to mention to Marianne, I was actually keynote speaker at Google last year and year before, 2 years straight. Okay, in 2018, I spoke in February at 111 Richmond Street West, and in 2019 in January. So 2 separate speeches for Google. With all this happening now, we didn't do it this year. Okay, I guess I might do it again for Google next year. It's really, I learned a lot from the Google office. And one of these days I explain how the office works. It's fascinating. It's an amazing business model. Okay, and that's the reason why they are so successful. Absolutely no suit, no ties. Okay, I remember when I handled the major projects in Jakarta, Indonesia. Okay, I handled 3 projects together with the gentleman who architected the project in Dubai, the Albert Hotel, 7-star hotel. That's Thomas Atkins. So our friend, okay, Interland in Jakarta, flew him from London, England to meet up with me. They flew me from Toronto to meet up in Jakarta. And between him and me, we co-designed 3 projects, world-class projects. They all look like Albert Hotel, all look like sailing boats. Okay, and I'm still handling 23 projects in Jakarta right now, totaling $2.1 billion US. So I'm the chief advisor still, to guide them through when to do. At the moment, I'm doing a major project for Minto, 1,253 houses in Markham, and also Kyle Moore, 1,035 houses, also in Markham. I become also the chief advisor on the Feng Shui side. And so good things are still happening. Builders still bullish to build houses. So keep in mind what you can do. Now, the one thing you may want to avoid is clothing. Now, in 2021, because we cannot do things for this 4 months, you got to aim at next year too. What will lead to next year is what's more important. Because the next year belongs to the life cycle of 6. 6 is a much safer number than 7. 6 also means traveling. I heard the gentleman who said earlier is missing his travels, his trips, so as me. Maybe we meet at the airport sometimes next year. So next year is a year of change, a change for the better. And also a year of traveling, mobility changes. So the key is, what about Canada? Now Canada in 2020 is governed by the number 3. The number 3 means arguments, controversies. Look at Mr. Trudeau. Okay, I've never seen a prime minister having so much controversy. It's just amazing. I came to Canada during the particular year when his father became the prime minister, Pierre Trudeau. 1968, I came to Canada, 52 years ago. Okay, and it's an amazing time. He's a real statesman. Pierre Trudeau and Sun Chen are the 2 prime ministers I admire from my heart. They really are statesmen. They make this country a great country. Okay? And also, but his son got to learn from father. But other than that, this is also affected by the nature of Canada in 2020, the year of arguments, the year of controversies. Lucky enough, not the year of sickness. So that's why in Canada we managed to control the virus much better than most countries. We did a great job. We still have to be thankful to our politicians. Okay, regardless which party they come from, they did a good job. Okay, but next year Canada is governed by the number 2. Number 2 is a double sense meaning. On the bad side, 2 means sickness. On the good side, 2 means real estate. So the one particular thing that can reverse Canada's financial fortune in 2021 is 2 things. Number 1, real estate. Number 2, medicine, new drugs, new medicine. So we may see a lot of good vaccines, new medication being manufactured and not invented in this great country. In my opinion, the utopia of the world, we nickname it Canada. We should have called this country Utopia. Okay. Now, so that's something to watch out. Now, another thing that would be amazing next year, we will continue to see tremendous among the forest fire in Northern California, but this time also Northern British Columbia. So people in Northern Columbia either would be careful about forest fire and also about flooding. 2 opposite things may happen at the same time. Okay. Another thing that is going to happen to the world is which country would actually score the best next year. Believe it or not, China. The fact that China is being booted out by the United States on many fronts actually is a good thing for the long term. Good thing that China will begin to really focus to create things on their own. Okay, and instead of relying on the Western world, so for the long term they benefit from it. So one smart thing our prime minister should do is don't make either USA or China the enemies. So if they do a good political maneuvering, both can be friends and Canada can do better. Because those who ignore China would be in big trouble. Okay, because this is a power center, a financial power center for the next 24 years. 24 years would be a long time. Okay, and the major change point is 2019 and 2020, when the Western economy began to dip and the Oriental economy going to rise. So this is a turnover point, but more so 4 years from now. But you will see a lot of happening next year. So in terms of business, certain things are very favorable in 2021. The elements are earth, metal, and water. The negative ones will be wood and fire. That means anything to do with clothing, okay, would be in trouble. Marijuana will go through a lot of turmoil next year. Legal conflicts, illegal conflicts, okay, ups and downs. Some will be really going under, some will do well, for example. So wood is something, forestry included, next year may not be the best. So you want to be careful about it. Okay, fire, okay, is a multi-edged sword. Fire also means high-tech. Even though high-tech continue on the upward swing, but next year will be extremely volatile. Huge ups, huge downs. Okay, especially in the financial market. Also a record year of lawsuits dealing with high-tech. So 2021, good and bad. I guess the biggies will manage to survive it. Earth, okay, is real estate and medicine. So next year is really big on both. And compounding with the fact that next year represented by the number 6, which means mobilities and moving. So that means a lot of movements will happen. That means houses that or subdivisions that are targeted, arrow-headed to complete in 2021, they're very lucky babies. They should do marvelous next year. Okay, and if you want to sell your house, okay, then there's no rush. You can either do it now or do it next year, March or April. This is a very high time for real estate transactions for 2021. And so medication would be quite good next year too. So a lot of new medicine, vaccines included. Now, one thing I want to emphasize about the word vaccine. Virus is different from bacteria. Virus is changeable. Very highly, they can transmutate in a split second. So the ultimate way for our health is not that much with the vaccine, is to improve your immune system. Your immune system is governed by 2 major organs in our human body. Okay, one is the liver, second is the kidneys. As long as these organs are super strong, you have a humongous chance to fight off this virus attack. Okay. Is this virus going to disappear? Never. Because in the human body, believe it or not, each one of us sitting here today at this moment has over 1 billion different viruses in the human body. And another billion bacteria in the human body. We live with it. Some of this virus would have killed us 100 years ago. But we are here today with it, living with it. Okay, let's go to bed with the enemy. And we survived it. Why? The human body also transmutates. Over time, and time we also change. Okay, a lot of things like TB, like many smallpox used to kill us big time. Okay, we live with it because the human changed, human body. We have vaccines at the childhood. We put vaccines so we don't have smallpox. So things like that. All these will be the future. Okay, but virus like these years will not happen for quite a few years to come here. So don't worry. The immediate next hit by this kind of virus will be 2030. That's 10 years from now. But we won't be as serious. Okay. Now, so
Sifu Paul, if I may, we have 5 minutes left. So if you have any more insight, In particular concerning the housing market, that'd be great.
Yeah.
The brokers are going to have a business plan to build, so that would be helpful. Thank you.
Right away, real estate will do well, so that will affect mortgage market too. Don't forget to go hand in hand. Without mortgages, there's no real estate. Now, how's real estate go? Let's focus on, are most people from GTA, Toronto, or out of town?
All across Canada.
Oh boy. Then in that case, I will cover Canada. Okay, within Canada, the key real estate center is still Toronto. Both Toronto and Vancouver will do very well next year because Vancouver is governed by the number 8. So Vancouver actually is a money center for Canada for 2021. Okay, and Toronto GTA governed by the number 5. 5 is also an Earth number. So both cities are governed by Earth. So real estate will do very well. And within GTA, the key areas to pay attention to for good real estate would be Richmond Hill, Markham, and also west side of, believe it or not, Etobicoke, which has been quiet for a while, and also places such as Oakville, but also downtown Toronto. So these several areas will do well. Scarborough is a little shaky. One is a little bit on the upward battle, okay, for some strange reasons. So that's what you want to pay attention to. Within Vancouver, Greater Vancouver, the West Vancouver will do very well. Don't forget Vancouver is a very funny city. You have Vancouver, you have Vancouver West. They are very different. And Vancouver North, North Vancouver. The farmers, they are all different. But Vancouver, West Vancouver will do well, but not that much with east. So the east side of Vancouver would be a little bit on the low side. And North Vancouver also doing very well. And so is Richmond. So those 3 areas, like a sideways triangle. But the Paris will still suffer. Alberta, in Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, the real estate will still be very stable though. They won't go down further, but they won't go up much higher either. So very stable. So something to look for. So that means for the ladies and gentlemen in real estate market, mortgage market, pay more attention to what I said. GTA and also Vancouver. But within GTA, the area also will expand to places such as Elmira, New Tecumseh, Oakville, and Burlington. And a place to watch out for Waterloo and Kitchener. So please pay attention to those. Now, let me wrap this up with 2 more quick elements. What is metal and water? Metal would be automobiles, cars. Cars suffer a lot in 2019. But next year should be a much better year. Okay, so those in the car business, or you want to loan money to the car buyers, next year should be the year to go. And also lots of demand for things like copper and iron. And then water side would be water itself. Okay, good water. Okay, so next year would be a comeback. And travel-wise would begin to do much better starting June or July time and on. But first half year is still quite shaky. So still a little bit of wait time. So that's a big picture I outlined for our seminar for 2020 and 2021. I hope this makes logical sense how to connect the 2 years. So I'm open to any questions.
Okay, so we have just about 2 minutes available for question period if anybody has any questions for Sifu, Paul.
Actually, I have a question, Sifu Paul. Do you have an outlook for Atlantic Canada? I know sometimes it tends to be a little forgotten, but it's an area that I've heard some info, like I've had some feedback on the real estate and the mortgage market out there, and I just wanted to see if you had any insight into Atlantic Canada as well.
Okay, this is the northeast side of the country. Northeast side of the country for 2021 is called Center of Happiness. The Maritimes would improve a lot. It would do well. In fact, even this year is not too bad, but next year is not bad at all.
That's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? We can take one last one if anybody has one.
Maybe everybody's in the deep thinking.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to fuel our thoughts in what you've shared with us today, Sifu Paul. On behalf of everyone, I want to thank you for your time. We'll be able to reflect on some of your ideas there, and it hopefully will help us build our business plans later on this afternoon. Thank you very much.
I want to thank all of you, and my pleasure, my honor to be able to speak. Thank you.
Sorry, there is one question, if we have time, Eric. There is just one question regarding immigration. Do you see the immigration sector coming back to a normalcy or improving for 2021?
Definitely. Remember, next year is a year of moving, traveling, mobilities. Definitely. But it would be mostly toward the second half of the year.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.